Helene has been the deadliest and most devastating storm in North Carolina history.
New today, Governor Cooper outlines the next steps with recovery in western North Carolina, the plan to rebuild roads stronger, and the first estimates of how much it'll all cost. Then, Raleigh will soon have a new mayor, and WRAL spoke to each of the 5 candidates. From affordable housing to public safety and city development, we preview where each candidate stands on the issues that matter to you.
A cold front is diving southward. I'll show you how it will impact our temperatures. Plus, our earliest chance for rain and an early look at your Halloween forecast.
Well, if you got election spam texts, couldn't get any more out of hand. Today, they reached a new level. Thank you for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty.
And I'm Ashley Rowe. The texts appear to come from a Texas area code. It says a voter at this address, we blurred out the one in this example, may not have voted. Vote here. And then the link takes you to a list of early voting sites. The weird thing is the text is going to people who already voted.
All day long, 5 on Your Side has gotten emails from viewers saying that they got this text. So 5 on Your Side called the number and got a busy tone. They asked the state Board of Elections about this, and it turns out the texts are probably legal.
Yeah, the board's statement reads in part, election officials across North Carolina are fielding numerous complaints from voters about unsolicited text messages. Such efforts typically are legal, but they can be confusing or frustrating for voters. The FBI and Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency says the goal of these messages is to undermine confidence.
Sure. Now, this does happen all the time. You probably know that. North Carolina isn't the only state where this is happening. Last week, college students in Wisconsin got a text warning them not to vote in states where they are not eligible. Over the summer, people in Arizona got texts saying they were not registered to vote, even though they were. In 2020, people in North Carolina, you may remember, got texts about voter registration, pointing them to a bogus link made to look like vote.org. These texts are nothing new, and they're just going to keep coming.
Right. So if you get one, don't click the links or respond. Go find the answers yourself, and we are here to help. WRAL has a voter guide online. There's information about the candidates, links to where your polling place is. You can check your sample ballot and double check your registration. You can do it all on WRAL.com. Just search the word vote.
All right, let's shift gears a bit now to a developing story in Zebulon. This is where police found a person's body in Weaver's Pond. It is the same area where a missing man was last seen.
WRAL's Aaron Thomas is live at the scene. Aaron, you just heard from some neighbors there. What did they have to say?
Yeah, several of those neighbors, they used one word to describe this entire situation. That's bizarre. You can see this has been going on for several hours now. You're looking at firefighters from the Zebulon Fire Department that are actively draining this pond in the Weaver's Pond area. This is where they found that body of Kareem Shabazz. He's been missing for nearly a week now, and it definitely had the family members on edge. They were searching this area just this weekend, and now you have several neighbors who were also startled to see all this play out in their neighborhood. Take a listen to what one person said caught her attention.
It was weird that I was out here this day. I was out here with my son, and he was riding a scooter, and I happened to notice this compressor for hours and was like, that's kind of weird. And then all of a sudden, this man's missing. So just very bizarre.
And what Elise was referring to is Shabazz was actually out here in this neighborhood last Tuesday doing car detail work. That was the last time that he was spotted in this area. Now we know that the medical examiners, they will be taking over this investigation, but after speaking with the town spokesperson, they don't believe any foul play is involved. Aaron Thomas, WRAL News, live in Zebulon.
All right, Aaron, thank you. More than 60% of the roads shut down or destroyed by Hurricane Helene. They are in the mountains and are back open at this point, about 60% of them. We also learned today over 5,000 people are still without power. And as Chelsea Donovan explains, despite 1,500 FEMA employees on the ground there, former President Trump is calling their rescue effort non-existent.
Today, Governor Roy Cooper called it the deadliest and most devastating tropical storm in our state's history. And we are learning more today about the response and relief efforts both with the state and federal government.
It's critical that Western North Carolina fully recover and make it more resilient and stronger
Speaking in Asheville today, Governor Roy Cooper and other officials gave an update on the devastation and recovery effort.
We have 95 storm-related fatalities over 21 counties.
And 26 people are still missing. We also got an update on the cost to repair 1,200 damaged roads. However, nearly 800 of them have reopened.
Estimated to be about $5 billion to restore our transportation infrastructure.
The National Guard also highlighting their response with 3,100 soldiers still on the ground, delivering 27 million pounds of food, water, and medicine.
And we've rescued 746 people.
FEMA says they have 1,500 employees on the ground, and the agency announced plans today to hire more to serve as what they are calling community liaisons. I spoke with FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell about the large rollout and the purpose of the program.
Telling us what they need, telling us what the community is telling them, what they're hearing about their immediate needs or their long-term needs, so we can continue to tailor our services.
Former President Donald Trump was in the storm-ravaged region of Swannanoa today, criticizing FEMA's response.
I think it's a disgrace what happened with FEMA. What's happened with their rescue effort was almost non-existent.
Many of the search and rescue teams that you saw on the ground saving lives, that was part of FEMA. Many of the bottles of water and the food that was delivered, that came from our warehouses.
FEMA says so far they've approved 206,000 requests for assistance and distributed $130 million in funds. And Governor Roy Cooper mentioned today that of the million people who lost power during Helene, only 5,400 customers are now experiencing an outage. In downtown Raleigh, Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
This week, we are going down the ballot. I get it, the presidential race is important, but since that's not the only circle you're going to be filling in on your ballot this year, I want to talk about a race that is a little closer to home. I'm talking about the race for Raleigh mayor. You know, the current mayor, Mary Ann Baldwin, is not running for a third term. Earlier this year, she explained her reasons. Among them include her diagnosis of stage 1 breast cancer and that her husband suffered complications after a major surgery. So this year, you have 5 candidates to choose from. You've got Janet Cowell, James Shaughnessy, Paul Fitz, Terrence Ruth, and Eugene Myrick. I sat down with each one of them. We talked about affordable housing, public safety, and development. This week, we will go subject by subject, lining up where each candidate lands on these issues. Tomorrow, we start with affordable housing.
The state of North Carolina over the last 5 years has decommissioned 3 prisons. You know, why they left 2 prisons in the most expensive real estate in the entire state just boggles my mind.
I would love to work with the business community and other stakeholders to see how we could scale those to help more people stay in their homes longer.
Why don't we bring neighbor to neighbor in and help the city? Why don't we bring in different players who are trying to actually address affordable housing?
If we go based off of 30% of the area median income, I don't know how you can base affordability off of somebody else's income.
Houses are getting more expensive here, and I don't think that price is going to go down, especially with the confined area that we have already have.
You know this. You decide who will be Raleigh's next mayor, and we want you to be informed when you cast your vote. Join us here on WRAL News at 7 o'clock for our Down the Ballot breakdown. 3 parts over the next 3 days, starting tomorrow.
Important stuff. It's Monday night, and it's time to pull some messages from the in-depth mailbag. Tonight, we answer your questions about Helene's aftermath in the North Carolina mountains. What happened to the local wildlife? And what about those millions of Christmas trees growing in the area? We're going to share what we found after the break. Kat?
And it's a beautiful night. All is quiet out at the North Carolina State Fair, but we're nearing the end of the month. I'll have a closer look at the long-range temperature and rainfall outlook into early November coming up.
It is Monday. Hope the week's starting off great for you. Let's start with a little headfirst dive into the mailbag for the in-depth. Why don't we? We asked you for your questions about Hurricane Helene and the relief response in Western North Carolina. And email after email came in asking about everything from FEMA to farmers. If you have a question, get out your phone. Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. Your feedback drives this segment, and we will work to get answers to your questions. Like Cindy, she asked, Dan, is anyone monitoring the wildlife populations in Western North Carolina? I'm particularly thinking about the bear population, but also for other wildlife. Cindy, thank you for writing in. We appreciate it. Yes, someone does monitor this stuff, NC Wildlife. So we brought your question to one of their biologists. And it turns out that the big mammals, like the bear and the bears out there and the deer, they usually do okay when it comes to hurricanes. They seek higher ground, they hunker down, or they just get out of the way. Birds, they will fly out of the way. Mandatory evacuation orders are in their blood. Cornell University has this thing called Birdcast. It tracks bird migration using Doppler radar. And they found 1 week before Helene hit, nearly 5 million birds crossed through Buncombe County. As the storm approached, day by day, that number ticked downward. 1 million, then turned to 60,000, then turned to 300. And the night before the storm, it was 0. Not a single bird crossed through the county. Isn't that amazing? 4 days later, after the storm passed, the number of birds jumped back to 7 million passing through the county. You see, birds have their own meteorology equipment built in. They can sense changes in barometric pressure. They feel the storm coming and they get out of there. That's pretty cool, don't you think? The coolest part, though, of our conversation with NC Wildlife has to do with 3 other things, though. Gopher frogs, hellbenders, and the magnificent ram's horn snails. And no, I didn't make those up. Those are real animals. Gopher frogs look kind of like a toad wearing leopard print. And let me tell you, okay, they love a sudden, powerful storm because it gives them the sudden, powerful urge to reproduce. The storms spur the frogs to go back into mating season, a aphrodisiac, if you will.
The gopher frog is one of those species that's kind of struggling. And we've seen that in some cases, after really big tropical storms and things, they've gone back into mating, which could mean another opportunity for them to increase their population, which can be a good thing.
At least somebody's having a good time, you dirty dogs, I mean, you dirty frogs. But this is legit. Hurricanes can help this species to avoid extinction. That brings us, though, to the hellbender. These are these slimy-looking salamander guys, and they live in western North Carolina. And unlike the birds and the bears, they don't move so well. For them, hurricanes pose a serious danger to their population. We learned that hellbenders are actually pretty delicate creatures. If you find one in the wild, it means that the habitat there is pretty healthy. It can be a good barometer for an ecosystem that's thriving. And that brings us to in all their splendor and majesty, the magnificent ram's horn snail. These slimy, curly little dudes live almost exclusively here in our state of North Carolina. And last year, they made the endangered species list. The hurricane might have made that a bit worse. You don't need to be a biologist to know that snails don't move very fast. For them, evacuating a hurricane isn't really an option. NC Wildlife says that they will check on their population of those little guys once more of the cleanup effort is finished. But the bottom line is, the takeaway, is that in most cases, animals kind of roll with the punches.
It's not always doom and gloom for the wildlife. Sometimes they can benefit from these and see them as opportunities. Wildlife tend to find interesting ways of adapting, and we kind of just have to wait and see what the overall impacts are going to be.
Let's turn to plants for just a moment, specifically the crops farmed in western North Carolina. Denise wrote, I'm originally from Henderson County, which is known for its apple orchards. Can you tell us how they fared? How will this affect the farmers and consumers? So apples floating in the floodwaters, that was one of the first images that we saw out of the mountains really early on. And since then, orchards have started to recover, which is good. Fox Carolina caught up with Costin Farm Apple House in Hendersonville, and they are actually back to full production right now. So they're picking apples every single day, which is awesome. Other orchards will need some help. Something similar, I can say, also happened with Christmas trees and Christmas tree farms. Millions of Christmas trees grow in the North Carolina mountains. In fact, this year, the White House is getting its Christmas tree from Cartners in Avery County. We talked to Sam Cartner, the farm owner. He says he lost 5,000 trees in the storm. They were all young trees, so it's not going to hurt business necessarily this season, but it could impact them in the years ahead. Other farmers weren't so lucky. At least one farm lost 5,000 trees set to be sold in the next couple months. Got pictures of the damage on Cartner's farm. He told us that the storm didn't just wipe out trees. That's not the only problem. It took out roads and culverts. If you can't get to the trees, you can't harvest them, you can't sell them. Repairing this infrastructure costs upwards of $100,000, and that's just one farm. And there are 1,300 Christmas tree growers just in western North Carolina. Still, the state ag department is confident they will endure. They wrote in a statement, "We do not expect the aftermath of Hurricane Helene to have a significant effect on the supply of real North Carolina Fraser fir Christmas trees this holiday season. Our farmers have weathered the storm and are ready to persevere." Cartner Farms will send off its White House Christmas tree on November 20th. And they say the event won't just be about the tree. They're going to use it to raise money for the communities hit hardest by the storm. What else do you want to know about the Christmas tree farms in the mountains? What else do you want to know about the Helene response in general? We're taking questions about this and every other story that you see in the news. So let us know. Send us an email, dan@WRAL.com. Tell us what's on your mind, and we'll go in depth.
That is fascinating, specifically about the birds. I think we need to do a much better job of regularly monitoring bird migration. That is fascinating.
It's really interesting stuff. We see it on radar imagery all the time.
Do you?
But their pressure has to do with how they take flight and everything, the atmospheric pressure. So it's really interesting stuff.
It is interesting. Also interesting, especially after we're talking about Helene, is just seeing how we stand with as being one of the driest Octobers on record.
And, you know, we needed this to some degree for the cleanup. To have dry weather and just give folks some time to regroup is definitely good news. But meteorologist Mike Mays, he spent a lot of time in the mountains, and he was saying it is so dusty right now. You know, mud is just caked on everything that they actually could use light rain, nothing significant, but a little bit of rain that way. So it's interesting to think about. So far, we're running for the second driest October on record. We're tied for second place, 1974, and of course 2024. 0.01 inches of rain so far this month. There have actually been 2 Octobers where we've had no rain at all, though. That happened in 2000 and in 1963. Below normal rainfall is still in the forecast for the end of the month into early November, but you start to see an area of above normal rainfall in this region. That could be signs of a cold front that may try to get here early in the month of November. But we've got a pretty good handle on the long-range temperature outlook. High confidence in above normal temperatures during the time frame of October 29th into early November, November 4th. And this encompasses Halloween. So I've been looking at the ensemble data, and it's in pretty good agreement that we're going to see a warm Halloween here locally this year. The temperature that you see here, this is for trick-or-treating during the evening. Should be warmer than that during the day, but for trick-or-treating, it's looking like temperatures will range from about the mid to upper 60s. Looking very warm out there. I don't think you're going to need to bundle up in the big costumes this year. And rain chances look low for now. That's not guaranteed yet, so stay tuned for updates. But the warmth certainly looks likely for Halloween. High pressure and control of our local weather right now. That's going to keep things dry here a bit longer. Our next cold front still a little ways away. It's not going to get here until we get to Wednesday. And this cold front doesn't have any moisture to work with, so it's not going to bring any rain. It will knock our temperatures down a little bit Thursday and Friday. High temperatures are back in the 70s instead of about 80. But we've got a stronger cold front on the way. This will get here Saturday night. This one has the opportunity to bring a little bit of rain with it. Doesn't look like a significant rainfall event at this point, but it is our only chance for rain for the week. So it's worth mentioning. We've got a small chance for rain in the forecast Saturday night. We'll watch that closely. That cold front also stronger in terms of bringing some cooler weather with it. By early next week, highs may only be in the 60s again. Highs in the meantime near 80 tomorrow and Wednesday. We start out in the 40s tomorrow morning, so make sure you are dressing in layers. Our low temperatures are in the 40s and 50s for the foreseeable future. No 30s, so you don't have to worry about your plants this week.
Thank you, Kat. Hey, one last thing to talk about. Another sticker competition for kids. This time it comes from Raleigh's stormwater system. That got us thinking about another strange competition in our area. We're back in 2 minutes with that. One last thing for you tonight. Another local organization wants kids to send in their designs for a competition.
It's a popular thing. We saw this a lot from the election boards looking for kids to draw their designs for the I voted stickers. Many of you probably have some of these. The winning designs are on the stickers in this election, actually.
Yeah, and kids, if you didn't win the I voted competition, you can try your hand at the stormwater maintenance extravaganza.
Nice.
I know, it's exciting. The city of Raleigh wants a design for a sticker. It can hand out during events throughout the city. So here's a template and an application on the city's website.
We can do better than that, kids.
I think so. And this got us thinking about another creativity competition that we actually have covered here at 7 o'clock.
You might remember in Fayetteville, they're looking for a solid waste mascot. The contest opened last month. They want kids to submit their design for a trash mascot. Fayetteville isn't the first one to do this idea. We found towns that used raccoons or garbage cans come to life. I didn't know it was just for kids at first. I put in my suggestion, Trashy. I grew up from West Virginia, playing in the creek, had a rat tail as a kid. Trashy's kind of my spirit animal. Don't know if it'll win. I think it's going to be disqualified for technical reasons, which doesn't seem fair. But we want to know who's going to win this thing. All right, it's been over a month now.
I know. I wish you had entered Trashy. The competition ends this Friday, and let's just say Fayetteville Solid Waste Division has been busy with some important stuff.
Sure.
Some of their workers deployed to Western North Carolina this week. They're helping with debris removal in Hendersonville. The city says more than 70 of its employees have jumped in to support the recovery efforts. But we're still waiting with bated breath to find out.
If somebody has not done a design yet, maybe they could be inspired by some of the heroic efforts that those people have done.
Yeah.
But don't
We'll
worry,
see.
we are going to report on who wins when it happens.
Dan is excited.
It could be me. Who knows? All right. Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news.
Our next newscast is at 10 on Fox 50 and 11 on WRAL. Have a great night.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.